We will now be moving to our first technical session, Building Unicorn FPOs for India's Agri Future. This session is co-curated in partnership with Sattva Consulting. I welcome on stage Mr. Deb Ranjan Pujahari, Partner and Head Agriculture Practice, Sattva Consulting, to moderate the session. I would now like to invite on stage the panelists for this session. I welcome on stage Ms. Shweta Singh, Community Partnerships and Sustainability Leader, Corteva Agri-Science Seed Private Limited. Next, I welcome Ms. Mansi Kalra, Head Resource Mobilization and Donor Partnership, Digital Green. I also welcome Shinoy Matthew, Chief Sustainability Officer, Arya.ag, and Mr. Deepak Kumar, Zonal Business Head, Sammunati. Lastly, I welcome Mr. Sanjeev Singh, Managing Director, Mishti Pharma Producer Company Limited. I now hand over the mic to Mr. Deb Ranjan to take it forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Is it audible? Yeah. I'll request everyone, whoever is outside, I think as much as possible, please join in, take a chair. I think this session is something is more engaging. Obviously, post-lunch, people might be having some people in the lunch sessions, but as much as possible, I think people who are outside, I request everyone to take a chair. Okay. Should we start then? Yeah. We have given a time of almost like 1 hour. What we'll do is I'll set the context in a quick 5 minutes, what is something we'll be speaking about. Then I think brief, I'll tell the name, and then I'll probably ask, I think some of the questions, because all of you are like coming from different expertise, different institutions which are working in the same cause. And Sanjeev ji hai, jahan pe I think field ke experience leke aa rahe hain. So I think accordingly, I think we'll discuss. And anyone, I think, who is from the participant sides, working with FPO in any form, this is an opportunity to even like, I think around what is the future of the FPO sector is. And in whatever form you are working, I'll encourage, obviously I'll try to like pull out some time so that we have like last few, I think 10 minutes to a few questions. This format always in the conference are like very tight in time in terms of, I think, maintaining it. So as a moderator, my responsibility also is to close and hand over to the next session without getting delayed. So let's start, I think, what is this context is all about, right? So today, if we see the FPO sector, almost like we're like cross like 50,000 odd FPOs right now from the Tata Cornell data, I think, when you see that. And there is an estimate that by 2030, this number will actually cross 70,000. Because the model as an FPO, which is an economic empowerment model for the farmers as an institution, has been proven. And there is a lot of trust from the government and enabling ecosystems that this institution will be there, and hence there is an increasing number we see. But somehow the question comes that how many of them are today enterprise ready? And when I say enterprise ready in a true sense, these are mostly registered under the Farmer like Producers Company Act. So thinking like an enterprise, running like a business, how many of them are actually ready? And unfortunately, I think I'll not say like I think is very bad, but I see the huge opportunity in terms of the enterprise readiness FPOs. And the recent statistics, few months before, I think Government of India published the statistics, there are almost like 1,200 farmer producers companies which have crossed turnover of 1 crore. And almost like there are only 340 farmer producers companies which have crossed like 10 crore of turnover out of this 10,000 farmers cohort which Government of India has started, I think, 2021. And the number, I think, which tells me is not like, I think, very negative, but I always see like, I think these are like huge opportunity. Can we see unicorn FPOs, I think, very soon? There are. It's not that I think it's not happening, but there are, but they took like a longer gestation, I think, for any, I think, period, but can we create more? And I parallelly want to compare this entire sector to the MSME sector. MSME, I think the number was before, like 20 years before, it was like 2.6 crore MSME, having the same problem. They were having like again fragmented, informal, the cash traps, I think that was like again not financing facility was not there. Today, if you see, the number of MSME is standing at 6.3 crore. The Udyam portal talks about there are close to like again 42,000 MSME which have crossed like again 50 to 100 share, and there are like 21,000 to 25,000 numbers of MSME which are in the range of 100 to 250. So the instance in India is such a beautiful country where we have lot of cross learning. That an MSME which is also was facing the similar issues before has crossed Jaipur Rux, and there are so many others. There are a lot of milk, I think, like producers company, others have like crossed that. So examples are like enough. But that examples, I think we need to know sometimes looking beyond cross sectors also is important. We should not look at only silos like, I think, obviously we are like farmer-based organization as an FPO, but is there any success story of similar business journey has been seen in the sector? And that's what I think the comparison was with the MSME. But the question I think is now comparing both the sector where we see that I think the enterprise readiness is, I think little bit like, I think slow, but you see the opportunity. And today it brings to the core questions like, to the sessions like, how can we, like what is basically the constraint which is stopping farmer producers company to become high growth, high impact rural enterprises? And the other question is, what is something is required to do if you move these rural enterprises to the unicorn journey? That's the questions everyone in this room, in this event, and largely to the ecosystem players. We need to start thinking that time is right now, I think it has come, where we need to, while you are scaling on a saturation model, we need to start demonstrating unicorn FPOs which are enterprise ready, which are self-sustainable, and which are future ready, solving the problem of the farmers, but running the business sustainably there. So today, I think we'll discuss, I think, unpack some of those, I think, what are some of the, like, I think, critical challenges which is actually then, I think, the farmer producers companies are struggling to grow. But there are also examples like, again, Sanjeev ji, and there are many more, today at least, I think, who have crossed that barrier and moved to a significant amount of turnover. And we'll also talk about the solution side. So we have a, like, I think, great panel, I think, coming from various sectors. I have Sweta with me, who is the Community Partnership and Sustainability Leader from the Kotiva Agri Science Seed Private Limited. We have again Mansi Chandarikar Kalra. She heads the resource mobilization and the donor partnerships in organization called Digital Green. We have again Sinoy Matthew is the Chief Sustainability Officer from ARIA. We have Deepak, who is the General Manager, heading the organization like coming from Samunnati Financial and Intermediation Services Private Limited. And finally, we have Sanjeev Nagla, who is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Misty Dairy Farmer Producers Company. All of them bring a different expertise and lens. But all of them in their heart is also practitioners, right? So we'll bring that practical lens while giving the examples, try to give as much as examples. I have like talked to them pre-lunch and requested, I think everyone, I think who will be speaking, bringing the, I think, practical examples which people can resonate because that's the evidence that, okay, something is already happening, right? So I think we'll do the, I think, starting now the questions. For all of us, I think to cover, I think we have like two questions. So one round we'll probably talk about some of the core challenges. The other round maybe like looking at more solutions. And probably I think 4 minutes I calculated, I think would be the ideal time. So after 3 minutes, probably I have like a card just to remind. So these are, I think, unfortunately, I think I'd love to like engage throughout the day, but formats are actually in conferences. You have to be like speaking top of the points there. So I think we'll try to best. And Sanjeev ji हमसे बताया था जो भी I think आपने तो I think इसका मतलब किया हुआ है जो भी हम ट्राई करेंगे कि 3-4 मिनट में वो पॉइंट्स कवर करके करें. And from the audience point of view, participants point of view, I think whoever have questions, I'll try to cover I think few questions there, but we are available to answer any, I think, deeper questions, partnerships, and all these things, right? So, should I start with, I think, Sinay, I think, let me start from you. Instead of, I think, going to left, I think we'll just put, like, I think, why I started, I think, is like, I know that I think Arya is actually, guys, is doing it for years now, working with farmer producers company, and I still recall the early days when I was at that time even in Bihar, and see areas where I think the traditional warehouses was not there. We partnered with the program with Jivika at that time, and from there on, I think the organization has evolved a lot. The solution also has evolved a lot, starting from the post-harvest to now the whole stack we are doing. So my question for you, Sinay, is what barriers you recently see when you see like farmer producers company which are present today? And when you look at like market engagement is one of the critical part of any of the FPOs growth. What do you say that today farmer producers organizations in terms of market readiness, what are the major constraints you see? Because you're working with them, probably you find, okay, you want to provide a solutions, but probably those guys are not ready because of the XYG reasons.
It's a very, I think, a lot discussed topic across the forums and reasonably studied point as well. So probably what I may have to speak is something which all of us know, but it's from a practitioner's point of view. How do we face this in the field is what I would like to narrate. In the starting part of it, Debarjan mentioned about 47,000 or so registered as farmer producer company. And then a lot of them under the cooperative format across. So could be something like 100,000 to 150,000 entities who are engaged in the farm value chain activities. That is definitely not a linear progression. It's something like a big jump. Why? Because the Tata Trust commissioned a study, mandated a study to us sometime in 2017 or 18, where we went to each and every registered farmer producer companies that point in time. So I was leading that project as well, where the Tata Trust and area, it's still available in the net to download. So at that point in time, there were something like 4,000 registered farmer producer companies. I'm speaking about 2017 to 18. And barely 200 were doing something like a reasonable business, and something like 40 or 50 doing some sizable business. From that, we have come a long way in the past 6-7 years, thanks to the government support and a big intervention from the corporate sector also, because under the CSR program, many corporates looked at ways, either they work with the promoting institutions or the FPOs directly. And then it has become now an alternate channel. Many input companies, many on the procurement side as well, on the buying ecosystem also, many large corporate majors, they have now dedicated department who are dealing with FPOs as an alternate channel. So while the challenges will always remain, we must also look at the progress which has come. I mean, when we always look at have we reached where we want, the ambition is always, like the Prime Minister sets a very high ambition. That's always there. That's where we are trying to go. So when I mentioned 2-3 points, I just don't want to sound critical. The reason being, I always take proud in part of that effort in whatever the minor way possible in making all this change visible, like along with our colleagues here, Samanadi, and many promoting institutions, Access itself as one of the major promoting institutions. Now, there are 3 areas where the improvements are still happening and some more way to go. One is on the how we get these organizations more resilient. Because when we look at the legacy channel, the traders or the processors, they know the rules of the game. And if there is 4 years and out of that 4 years, 3 years are bad and 3 years are good and 1 year is bad, they're okay with that. Like this year, if you look at the commodity markets, the prices are down. And it's the cyclical, it's the phenomenon. It always don't remain same. It goes ups and down. Now, unfortunately, there are many institutions who just start in this time and then get hit. Now, what are the mechanisms through which we can build in resilience in this institution so that when the tide is not in favor, they were able to stand and, not wither out. That is what is, which I know that there are several things the government is putting in place, and we have been part of that initiatives as well, like the credit guarantee programs, the price risk programs. Yesterday, with a major state government, we were discussing, supported by the World Bank, that what can be another alternate channel to the MSP procurement program, where farmers are assured, because anyway there is an outflow of the government, and why the mandated is like 25% of the production under the MSP, the reach is limited, as we know. Now, with the private partners, how can we further increase that net and make an assurance possible, keeping FPO as a layer in between, where there's an assured income in such times. So this resilience, how we can build in them is what is more important. The other point is like the agility, like, when we deal with the cooperatives and when we deal with the farmer producer companies, there is a different ways in which the decision making happen. So the market is very dynamic and the decisions has to be taken with some amount of a cautious risk always. So who takes that risk and who, the decision making need to be a very fast affair. So there is where a lot of hand-holding and capacity building still need to be with the farmer producer organizations so that they are able to take that. Because at times, they are not able to take the decision in the right time. So that gets a challenge. The third piece is very important, is like when very large corporates want to connect with the FPOs, compliance is an important aspect. If you look at, go back and check with many registered farmer producer companies, there are thousands accrued as penalties at the MCA side because the filings have not been done at the right time, right? So as per the law, the first money should go to the President of India because that penalties are there. So this compliance is another aspect where we all will have to work together because they are all compliant, are acting like proper companies. So these are the three areas which I see more improvement and is required to make this ecosystem more robust.
No, thank you so much, Shinai. I think that I note down the point. I think the resilience, the agility, and also simultaneously at the compliance readiness are some of these things which are also like, I think in a way, the future thinking. That's what I think we started with that. Now we'll go to understand, I think, some of the constant and then enabling lens. I think, Mansi, I think probably I'll reach out to you now. And from your experience, Digital Green, who has set up a role model in terms of thinking application of digital solutions in the traditional agriculture sector. Again, observing it from the inception of the organizations, and it has evolved a lot, just like I was talking to Arya. And from your experience and experimentation across India and outside of India, what do you think, I think, what are some of the constraints of digital readiness for the farmer producers company today, right? I think, and we were talking during this just break time saying that I think these organizations anyhow are resource constrained. And it can't run on like human-centric approach because there will be error, there will be financial error, there will be operational error. And digital readiness is actually now in India, I think we can only think of this as the efficiency. So what is your perspective, I think, when you see that, when you see like, I think 0 to 1 crore type of the early farmer producers company journey, is there a constant you see like in the digital readiness? And if so, what are some of the, I think, behind the scene factors, I think, which propels them, or I think why they're probably not adopting, or I think, are they adopting enough? What is your, I think, observations and point?
Thank you, Deb. In fact, I'm very excited to be speaking about this because the topic itself is pretty exciting. Building unicorn FPOs. And maybe tying it with what Shinoy just spoke about, the pace or the speed at which, the FPOs or the operations would have to be really taken care of. I would actually start with that itself, Dave. So when we talk about unicorn FPOs, the aspiration or the idea is not only valuation as such, it is velocity. So speed is something which is required at all levels and operations of the FPO while it travels through that journey. So starting with maybe, advisories that the farmers and the shareholders are seeking while they are associating with the FPO, how real-time, how contextual are these advisories. In fact, also looking at, aggregating the demands and the requirements of these farmers, because it is only when the FPO has complete information about what are the input requirements, what are the supply, side of it. If those aspects are really digitized, I think that is when the FPO will get that kind of speed to negotiate, to go out to the buyers and suppliers and talk about, further strengthening its processes. Second, the third point I would like to make is also digitizing the procurement and the marketplace aspect. So, the FPO through digital integrations does not really just remain an institution where the farmers, associate with, but rather it becomes an ecosystem, a digital marketplace as such. So that includes probably, looking at intelligent AI-driven ways of, placing their catalogs, their services onto the application, which in turn will also be accessible to the farmers and the shareholders, which actually creates a much more transparent and a smooth process, a convenient process for the farmers to have complete and full information of who are the relevant FPOs and suppliers, where can they actually go out and procure relevant input, what are the offerings and the services that are available in the locations and the areas nearby. And at the same time, also looking at the social security aspect, government scheme access, etc. That is also something which the shareholders and the farmers really look up to while they are associated with an FPO. So while looking at all these factors, I think digitization is something which really would, bring that kind of speed and pace to the FPO operations. And in India, of course, India being a large country with, such a dynamic and a huge population, digital tools and solutions, I think, are the only way that we can achieve that velocity for the FPOs and for the associated farmers.
Oh, great points. You started with, I think, the valuation to the velocity, I think, right? And there are like multiple layers of, I think, some of these, I think in the supply chain, I think the crop planning and at a regional level also is very critical. We have to see FPOs who are actually interacting with the market should have that intelligence. Now, fortunately, we have like AI, and previous session also in water we talked about a lot of those, I think, AI-enabled solutions. But today, whether FPOs know that what sort of, how much of production actually is expected from that particular shareholder base, which are operating at a block level or at a cluster level, helps. In absence of that, I think we're just like leveraging upon the, I think, the current market yards, and forecasting has not been done. They do not take like saying how much they want to like sell today, how much they want to sell just before the, I think, the peak harvest season happens, or I think in the lean period. A lot of this planning required, I think, the digitization approach, which digitization doesn't mean only advisory, but I think beyond advisory, interacting with the market, sharing what you are offering to the market. So FPO also has to leverage there, I think, again, some of the catalog, the service offering, and also simultaneously, how can digitization today, whenever most of the time we see FPO's discussion talked about, again, the value chain both on the production side or the market side. Many times I think we discuss, like, probably forget about what is the cost of shift from my traditional practices to the new practices. And the cost sometimes is higher. And for an individual farmer, it's very unviable to say that I think this is the cost required to completely be burdened on you. So, and that's where the government schemes helps a lot. For everything we are doing in agriculture, fortunately, I think there are some level of, I think, government schemes are ready. The question is, do I know that? Or if I know that, is there a channel who can actually help me in terms of accessing those? And some of this work, I think, which you're doing, and probably in the next round, we can talk about the farmer's chart and then some of the solutions there. And from digitization, probably I'll now go to Deepak, talking about more from a finance lens. When we see the farmer producers organizations, and when I say, I think they're not enterprise ready, and obviously I think the early journey, they get some of the grant capital, there are a lot of government schemes, but when they grow to a next stage, they started doing 1 or 2 business lines, as like when they do. And Deepak, you're doing it for years now. We have like a strong banking experience, or working with Samanati for years. And when you see like financing to these FPOs, what do you see? I think the constant where farmer producers companies are probably not ready for even taking the large amount of working capital or any sort of like financial support, which can actually propel the business growth there.
Yeah, thanks, Dev. So, I'll say, if you'll see the mission of the statement of Samunati, it's about customization of financial solutions. So, if you talk about that, what actually we look at in FPOs while we look at financing them, few of the points Senoy and Mansi has covered, that is the compliance part and the digitization part. So, if you'll see, finances are more comfortable if an FPO is registered under a Companies Act. So FPCs, the majority portion of the FPO world we are talking about. So maximum financiers are more comfortable financing the FPCs rather than the other form of FPO like cooperative, trust and societies. Because the compliance is much more stronger in companies compared to the other constitutions which we talk about. And then digitization, because whenever I meet the FPOs, then only 2 requirements came. One, that they need the finance, and being agriculture in nature, that finance is needed at a larger volume for a shorter period of time, which our regular financing system never addresses. If you'll see any working capital assessment of any bank or any financial institution, it is turnover based. Turnover ka 20%, turnover ka 25%, 30% kind of thing. But the requirement is never throughout the year 30%. It may go to even 70%, it may go to even 5%. So if we don't customize or do those things for the financing, then the finance goes in a wrong direction, and that's where the growth of the FPO get hampered. So these are preparation from the external side. We talked about also the government schemes. So in initial stage, of course, government schemes help, because if there is a subsidy as a financer, it gives me a cushion that he has to arrange for the remaining money only. A major portion is coming through the government subsidies. So that is the third component. And the last but the most important is the FPO itself. The BODs, the CEOs, what is their vision and mission, what they want, what is their purpose statement, why they have come to the FPO world. That's more important. Is it just because to avail the government scheme, or it is something meaningful they want to do for their farmers, for their geography, for their regions? Because when I left the formal financing system of banking and I came to Samunati, that customization word was more important for me. And when I interacted with many FPOs, then I came to know that normal financing system will not fit. Like recently, many FPOs has gone into this Parali Prabandhan, that agriculture waste government is focusing on. Now it will not fit into your formal financing system. If you remember, post-corona, there was a focus on the FCI procurement through FPO side. But government put a rule that it should be only 1 year old, so you are eligible, but you should have a working capital of 50 lakh rupees. So if you'll talk about a normal financing system, I don't remember that banks will come and give a 1 year old FPO a 50 lakh procurement loan for say this 3-4 months time. But Samunati came up, they designed the product, they help us design the product to suit the geography, and we really helped to do the procurements, because that was one of the lever to make their turnover go up. One season they do FCI procurement, their turnover goes by 2 to 3 crores. So this a small chunk of help through finance. Finance can play a major role in the growth of any FPO part. But if it is done meaningfully, if it is done as per the discussion with the client, Because finance, when I started my career in banking, I was told it's not a product that you have to go and sell. Financing get completed when the money comes back with interest on time. So that will happen only once you have lent it in a proper way, you have lent it for purpose, you have lent it to a right person and at right time. So we are talking about the speed. So you know this procurement ka licenses are given for paddy, it is in October or November depending upon the 1 year ka difference different districts has. So are you ready for that? So first season we could not help that many FPO, but from that learning we learned that how to prepare for the next season. And then if some FPO, apart from all the, what I say, the financial gyan which we learn over the period of career, the one thing I carry is that what is the mission and purpose of an FPO? If somebody is really willing and he is very strong in terms of his ideas that it will succeed, your little support, your little help will go a long way. Of course, if you are lending it a higher amount, you have to monitor it well. You have to dedicate your time also if you want to really shape up. So FPO financing is more of a empathetic kind of financing, I can say, rather than a systematic financing which you want to define. But now over the period, it has shaped up and now banks have entered a lot in financing. So that's what I see while doing the financing.
No, thank you so much, Deepak. I think being agriculture, being cyclical in nature, I think the product has to be very different. And also like both side, both, I think the borrower as well as I think they were both has to be like smart. And I talked about the life cycle, like you have to be smart about saying what type of product you're offering. And simultaneously, I think it has to be the right purpose so that you know that the return will happen as per the time with the interest, so that the trust between both the sides will be like again ensure that I think the next time also I can actually get more credit from the same lending institutions there. And with that, I'll actually ask to now come to like again Sweta. Sweta, you're like running this, I think the flagship 2 million women farmers program, working with almost like close to like 70 FPCs across 5 states. And you also like represent, I think, the corporate foundations, right? And one of the things which you all see is that today there is an opportunity, but simultaneously there's a constraint that I think when we treat farmer producers company, and most of the farmer producers companies start with, I think, the agri input license or some of them the B2B trading. But the scale is very, very low and we do not see them, I think, they continue in that like journey for multiple, I think, phases. So what is your, I think, observation, Sweta? I think when you see that why these FPOs, I think, are not corporate ready partnership in a way, right? What is something is constant, I think, which, or somewhere, what is something is the trust factor, I think, where a corporate see that I think this can be my long-term partner either as an agri input side or an output side. What is the constant you see during the operations we are observing there?
थैंक्स देव. मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगी तो कोई गड़बड़ तो नहीं होगी. आई मीन सबको समझ में आएगा. हाँ. सो जब हमने स्टार्ट किया 2 million women in agriculture program, right? So women, so we know why in agriculture they are required because they constitute 70% to the total work, है ना? तो वो सबसे ज़्यादा काम 70% काम वही कर रही हैं. पर जब हमने स्टार्ट किया था तो हमारा जो मेन मोटिव था वो यही था कि FPOs एज अ प्रोग्राम बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, बहुत ज़रूरी है बिकॉज फार्मर्स लैंड छोटी है एंड दैट्स वाई FPOs. वी न्यू दैट, बट इम्पॉर्टेंट ये था कि वो बिजनेस रेडी कैसे होंगे बिकॉज वी आर अ बिजनेस, राइट? कोटेवा इज अ बिजनेस एंटरप्राइज. वी वांटेड टू क्रिएट कि छोटे छोटे बिजनेसेस हम कैसे बना सकते हैं एग्रीकल्चर के अंदर बिकॉज वॉट वी रियलाइज इट्स नॉट एन ऑर्गेनाइज फील्ड, इट हैज़ टू गेट ऑर्गेनाइज्ड. तो वो कैसे हम प्रिपेयर कर सकते हैं, दैट वॉज अ थॉट. बट जब हमने उस पर घुसे और हमने सोचा कि अब हम FPOs को सपोर्ट करेंगे, सो हाउ डू वी सपोर्ट FPOs और किस चीज़ का सपोर्ट, तो जो हमने रियलाइज़ किया कि एक्चुअली FPOs बिजनेस की तरह चलते ही नहीं है. सो दैट बेसिक टिक हम बिजनेस स्टार्ट करते हैं, राइट? कोई भी बिजनेस चालू होता है, कोई भी स्टार्टअप चालू होता है, द सेंस कि एक बिजनेस है, राइट? कोई it's not a way to just get money. चाहे गवर्नमेंट से, चाहे सोशल इम्पैक्ट से, it's not a way of philanthropy. एक philanthropy यूनिट नहीं बननी है, एक बिजनेस चलाना है, वो बेसिक राइट स्टार्ट नहीं होता. अकाउंटेबिलिटी ऑफ पैसा नहीं आता. So if say like 10 rupees is given, that 10 rupees का यूसेज फॉर बिजनेस और उसको कन्वर्ट करके कैसे वो प्रॉफिटेबल बनाते हैं, वो नहीं आता अभी. तो मुझे लगता है कि वो स्टार्टिंग बेसिक गलत हो जाता है, और जहाँ पे वो बेसिक गलत होता है बहुत टाइम लगता है उस एफपीओ को साइकिल से बाहर निकलने के लिए. हम फ्री सीड दे रही है गवर्नमेंट, बहुत सारे की सब्सिडी दे रही है ना, और बहुत अलग अलग प्रोग्राम्स है जिसके बारे में देव ने बात किया, शनाय ने बात किया कि बहुत सारी स्कीम्स चल रही हैं. बट क्या वो स्कीम्स काम आ पा रही हैं? नहीं. क्या वो उनको अपाहिज बना रही है या उनको स्टैंड कर रही हैं? ये चीज अगर हम नहीं समझ रहे हैं, देन वी आर वेस्टिंग आवर मनी. अगर वो एक एक पैसे के हिसाब नहीं दे रहा है वो एफपीओ, और जैसे अभी दीपक ने कहा कि ये पैसा रोटेट होकर के वापस आना है एक टाइम के अंदर, ये बात समझ में नहीं आ रही है. ना लेंडिंग वाले आएंगे, ना इनपुट वाले आएंगे, ना आउटपुट वाले आएंगे, और किसी का ट्रस्ट नहीं बनेगा बिकॉज वो एक कॉर्पोरेट की तरह नहीं चल रहे हैं. लीव अलोन बीइंग अ यूनिकॉर्न, 100 crores is a big deal. तो वो I think is a bigger challenge, and first we have to rectify that, and then individually हमें हर एक चैलेंज, क्योंकि वो एक बिजनेस का पार्ट है. बिजनेस विल हैव आईटी, बिजनेस विल हैव बैंकिंग एंड फाइनेंस, उसमें एचआर भी होगा, उसमें बिजनेस एंटरप्राइज होगा, ऑपरेशंस होगा, और सब कुछ सही चलेगा, बट अगर उसको एक बिजनेस की तरह रन किया जाएगा.
Thank you so much, Shweta. I think these are all points. I think we all repeatedly, I think while working, I think repeatedly, I think we need to like hammer and say that while supporting the FPOs in the ecosystems, I think, are you enabling them sometimes become like the business ready, or sometimes playing a easy game because of lot of schemes there? I think सब कुछ कर सकते हैं. Somehow that business principles in that leadership team और या governance team जो board में, उतना होना बहुत जरूरी है. That if I am taking something, even for a small business, I am doing it like say Agri input. Do I know how many farmers have procured, how many amount has been done, what advance actually I have done, payment recovery मेरा हुआ क्या, मैंने payment properly return किया क्या companies को. All these things require a smaller but business mindset. वहाँ पे ये अगर हम बात करें कि नहीं मैं तो फार्मर्स के साथ कर रहा हूँ, कंपनी से लिया था, अभी मैं सीजन के मेरे रजिस्ट्रेशन पर और मैं 5 दिन में लूँगा, नहीं होगा. बिकॉज इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर ए कंपनी to maintain, because at the end of the day they are managing vendors, and farmer producers company is actually one of the vendor from lot of other individual dealers, retailers there, and simultaneously producers company को भी ये देखना है कि मैं अगर right time पे distribute नहीं किया farmers को तो भी वो फ़ायदा नहीं है. Farmers if they see value कि मुझे एक high quality product मेरे को doorstep में मिलता है, right advisory मिलता है, and that is where managing the relationship of I think engaging with the stakeholder, but simultaneously managing the business relationship in the value chain, both are critical. Now we talked about some of this in the first layer of I think this thing, and now probably संजीव जी आप इसमें आप practitioners हैं, आप पिछले कई साल से ये अपने मिस्टी फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर्स कंपनी आपने किया हुआ है, और हम जो बात कर रहे थे तो मुझे बड़ा खुश लगा कि आपने तो 17 करोड़ ऑलरेडी ये लास्ट ईयर के टर्नओवर भी कर चुके हैं. आज के टाइम ही इज़ राइट नाउ स्टैंडिंग एट हाफ ईयरली में 26 करोड़ की है, एंड ही इज़ एम्बिशियस एनफ टू नाउ रीच 40 टुवर्ड्स द मार्च एंड. बट आप जब स्टार्टिंग कर रहे थे वहाँ पे संजीव जी, और जब आप देखते हैं बाकी सारे फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर्स कंपनी में आपने वो स्टेज पार कर लिया है, तो आप जो स्टेज पार करते वक्त आपको ऐसा आपको लगता है कि यार ये 3 4 5 चीज़ें जो गैप नहीं करना है, ये चीज़ें क्रिटिकली बार बार देखते हैं कि ये गैप्स आपको लगता है कि महसूस होता है कि ये लोग यही गैप्स की वजह से आगे नहीं बढ़ पा रहे हैं, तो आपके हिसाब से वो क्या ऐसे क्रिटिकल गैप्स है? और अगली बार जब नेक्स्ट राउंड में सॉल्यूशंस में आएंगे तो पूछेंगे कि आपने ये सब चीज़ें किया जिसके बेसिस में लोग सीख सकते हैं. पहली बार में सोचिए कि क्या दिक्कत हैं जो आज फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर्स कंपनी बहुत सारे हैं, करनाल में, बाकी जगह में भी, और आप कई जगह में बात करते हैं, तो आपको क्या लगता है कि ये 3 4 चीज़ें तो ये गलती नहीं करना चाहिए जो आजकल हो रहा है?
थैंक यू सर. सर हमारी कंपनी की जो शुरुआत हुई थी वो 2013 में हुई थी, और मेरे हिसाब से आपसे बेहतर जहाँ से हमने शुरुआत करी थी कोई जानता भी नहीं। आप पहले पर्सन होंगे जिनके साथ हमने एक मार्केट सर्वे किया था, घर घर जाके हमने एक मार्केट सर्वे किया था। तो वहाँ से जब हमने शुरुआत किया तो सबसे पहले जो FPO के अंदर एक रहता है कि वो सिलेक्शन ऑफ डायरेक्टर और मेंबर, जो फर्स्ट क्राइटेरिया है वही फुलफिल नहीं हो पा रहा है प्रॉपर वे से। हमने जो अपना फर्स्ट टारगेट रखा था, जो भी कंपनी में डायरेक्टर बनना चाहेगा उसकी कम से कम 1 लाख रुपए कंपनी के अंदर इन्वेस्ट करने की कैपेबिलिटी होनी चाहिए। तो हमारा सबसे पहला टारगेट ये रहा, और उसमें हम काफ़ी हद तक सक्सेस भी रहे, क्योंकि जिस भी इंसान का कुछ पैसा लगेगा वही आगे जाके उसमें इंटरेस्ट दिखाएगा। तो फिर रही फार्मर्स के जोड़ने की बात। हमने उन्हीं फार्मर्स को अपने साथ जोड़ा जो हमारे बिजनेस से रिलेट करते थे। ज़्यादातर जो FPO के अंदर अभी मैं देख रहा हूँ कि CBBO मॉडल में काम चल रहे हैं, खाली एक फॉर्मेलिटी के लिए काम हो रहे हैं। उसमें कोई मेंबर के हित की बात नहीं कर रहा, कोई किसान की बात नहीं कर रहा, सिर्फ एक ही चीज़ दिखाई जा रही है डायरेक्टर को कि गवर्नमेंट से इतना पैसा आएगा और वो आप लेके अपना काम शुरू कर सकते हो। गाइडेंस, किसी भी FPO के लिए गाइडेंस, प्रॉपर वे में गाइडेंस होना बहुत ज़रूरी है। व्यापार को करने के लिए जो बैकबोन का काम करते हैं, क्यों, कहाँ, कब, कैसे, किस लिए, ये 5 ऐसे पिलर हैं। अगर इनके ऊपर पहले दिन से काम होगा तो FPO 100% सक्सेस होगा, उसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है।
आपने बहुत ही अच्छा पॉइंट बोला, ये जो हम बिजनेस में थ्योरी में पढ़ते हैं ना 5W वाला, कि चीज़ें क्लियर होना चाहिए कि मैं कर क्यों रहा हूँ।
सर जब हमने सर्वे किया था, आपको भी ध्यान होगा, मार्केट में रेट दूध का उस टाइम 19-20 रुपये पर लीटर था, और मे भी पानी की बोतल भी उस टाइम पे 20 रुपये की आती थी बाज़ार में। अगर हम तो ये चीज़ें देखनी होंगी कि हम किस फील्ड में काम कर रहे हैं और कहाँ हमें उसको कहाँ हमें टारगेट लेके, अपने कंज्यूमर क्या हैं। जनरली FPC क्या करती हैं कि अपने प्रोडक्ट को लेके B2C में डायरेक्ट जाने की कोशिश करते हैं, जहाँ पे वो फेलियर का चांसेस ज़्यादा बनता है। ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कोशिश करें अपने चैनल पार्टनर बनाएं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर बनाएं, उनके थ्रू अगर मार्केटिंग करेंगे तो वो ज़्यादा बेटर होगा, ना कि B2C में। प्रॉफिट आएगा जब वॉल्यूम बढ़ेगा, अगर वॉल्यूम ही नहीं बढ़ेगा तो ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट का भी कोई फ़ायदा नहीं होगा।
आई थिंक आप सुन पा रहे होंगे वहाँ पे जहाँ संजीव जी बोल रहे हैं, बिजनेस के बहुत सारे क्रिटिकल पॉइंट्स आई थिंक ही इज स्पीकिंग अराउंड, राइट। ही इज़ क्लियरली सेइंग कि जब आप चालू कर रहे हो तो पहले एक लेवल तक आप B2B में एक लेवल में पहुँचो। लॉट ऑफ पीपल फील कि नहीं, मैं तो B2C करके ही ज़्यादा मार्जिन ले लूँगा। एंड आई वाज टॉकिंग टू हिम, जस्ट आई वाज लर्निंग फ्रॉम हिम कि B2B में एक लेवल तक आप पहुँचो, डू योर स्किल, डू योर बिजनेस प्रैक्टिसेस स्ट्रांगली, डॉक्यूमेंट्स करो, डिजिटेशन प्रैक्टिसेस करो, एक लेवल के ऊपर बढ़ो। वंस यू क्रॉस दैट लेवल, आपको लगता है कि नहीं अभी मेरा मार्केट अपॉर्चुनिटी ऑलमोस्ट लाइक ए मेजर B2B में हो गया है, देन प्रॉब्ली यू कैन गो। ही स्टिल नॉट इन B2C। तो आज ही स्टिल डूइंग B2B, स्टार्टेड द बिजनेस मॉडल, बट इज ग्रोइंग दैट B2B फ्रॉम लाइक अगेन 0 to like again 26 राइट नाउ। सो बट ही वॉज ऑल्सो वेरी क्लियर दैट कौन शेयर होल्डर होंगे, कौन बोर्ड होंगे, जिनका स्टेक होगा वहाँ पे। ऑल दिस थिंग्स आर क्रिटिकल एलिमेंट्स जो समटाइम्स हम ये स्टार्टिंग के प्रमोशंस लेवल प्रोग्राम्स में थोड़ा मिस कर लेते हैं, बिकॉज वहाँ पे उतना रिगोर ऑफ मॉनिटरिंग नहीं है। इट्स जस्ट प्रेशर ऑफ लाइक डूइंग, क्रिएटिंग, बट इट्स रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द इकोसिस्टम सेइंग दैट आप बना भी रहे हो। तो आई थिंक ये स्कीम एक शॉर्ट टर्म अप्रोच है। ध्यान रखना कि दिस इज जस्ट स्टेप 1, बट आपको बिजनेस प्रैक्टिस, सिलेक्शन ऑफ बोर्ड अगर मिस्टेक होगा तो देन आगे ग्रो नहीं कर पाएंगे। सो थैंक यू सो मच संजीव जी, एंड क्विकली विल गो टू द नेक्स्ट राउंड। अभी चाहेंगे अभी वहाँ पे।
थैंक यू सर।
एंड नेक्स्ट राउंड में आई विल स्टार्ट अगेन आई थिंक द सेम ऑर्डर एंड विल टॉक अबाउट द सॉल्यूशन पीस राइट नाउ, कि अगर हमें 100 करोड़ की FPCs क्रिएट करने हैं और ऑलमोस्ट लाइक 100 आई थिंक FPCs 100 करोड़ आई थिंक आगे के जो जर्नी करने हैं अगले 3 साल 5 साल में 2035 में, अगर वहाँ 2030 में हमें क्या करना होगा अभी, enough of like saying 0 to 1 अभी बहुत हो गया number ना. I think we need to start setting. When I was giving the MSME example, अगर वो 20 साल में आज कोई 21,000 22,000 के I think MSME जो 150 के ऊपर जा चुके हैं मल्टीपल सेक्टर्स में, तो ये भी अपॉर्चुनिटी है. बट अपॉर्चुनिटी को एनाबल करने के लिए व्हाट इज समथिंग वी नीड टू डू, एंड Sina will start with that on the solutions lens. What are the some of the I think enabling route which FPO can do in terms of partnering with corporates, right? And you are doing it, and what is something are the enabling route you see? क्या करना है? I think as a result, I think these guys can actually fast track their I think journey towards the next level of unicorn.
There are multiple levers that many institutions and organizations are doing. Our country is lucky in one thing, that there are a lot of not-for-profit entities working on the development and capacity building side, and there are a lot of for-profit entities like us who are trying to build a business model around the problems, which we think can be a lasting solutions. Now, let's take about just one initiative that we are doing is, one thing that we found is the fight that they are doing with the legacy players, the legacy traders and the traditional channel, how can we make them more strong is what we had several workshops at our end and a lot of discussions, and we found two things. One is how increase their salience with their members. So on that front, what we are looking at is like there are multiple, because they can be like a last mile connecting points for the rural ecosystem. So now we have insurances that we are loading on the distributed through the FPOs. We have cattle feed companies who are coming in and making them as channel partner. So apart from the legacy business of input and output sourcing, what are the other things that FPOs can do? So what happens is like, so then for an extra price, the farmer may not diverge from FPO and go to the trader. So they will have more stickiness around it. Coming to that's about the supply ecosystem. And from the demand ecosystem, there are two good drivers that we have explored and successfully implementing. Sustainable sourcing is a big theme in all large corporates now, responsible corporates. And there are thematic areas like, not thematic areas, there are business models or business lines like climate positive produce, like low carbon, low emission wheat, water efficient rice. There are these requirements from the large corporates, and we already have agreements. Because of confidentiality, I cannot name the institutions. This year we have already signed multiple agreements where we are implementing this program on the ground. So there what happens is like, this is something which an FPO only can do, because there is a package of practice, there is a tracking of the practice, there is an input of the practices, and the traceability that need to be built in is something which only FPO can ensure. So there is a differentiation in the marketplace for them vis-a-vis the traditional channel. The second piece is, all of us, we see in the, a lot of LinkedIn posts and everything about as consumers, people are posting about the traceability requirement, the residues, the microplastics, and all these requirements. Now, and then there are as well, the corporates are taking note of it, and then there are requirements like, heavy metal, risk-free rice, low aflatoxin corn. These are the requirements. So these are other opportunities where we see that can be met essentially by FPOs. So what we see is like, how can we, basically to summarize, how can we strengthen them, looking at the drivers and levers available in the ecosystem? One is improve the salience of them to their members through the extra services. Two is look at these opportunities in ecosystem where you can get a preferential treatment or a better price for the produce. This is what, and we have combined together, we have named this initiative as a Smart Farmer Institution Program. So from our 1,200 FPOs, we have made a target of onboarding 200 farmer institutions on these programs, which we have now called it as a Smart Farmer Institutions. So the Smart Farmer, elevating this, the Smart Farmer Institution is a way that we see, we can make them more strong and resilient.
Thank you so much, Sina. I think again, sustainable procurement, traceability, and I think again, be like a strong traders, I think, so that I think the loyalty of the shareholders, I think, will be there there. And now I think I'll come quickly to Mansi. Mansi, I think you have like these beautiful tools on Farmers Chart, right? And Farmers Chart Enterprises, I think, which you're doing. What is your experience? These tools actually can these tools help in terms of the business growth of the FPOs? What is your experience, if you want to like to share?
So, Deep, while of course I talk about Farmer Chat and Farmer Chat partners, Digital Green as an organization, we've always worked with smallholder farmers, and the focus has always been on integrating technology into the overall agriculture and farming space. We of course experimented with a lot of solutions, digital integrations that could happen over all these 17 years that we've been working with farmers. Of course, as technology evolved, our solutions, our approaches also kept evolving along with it. But we did realize that, to ensure that both the farmers and the FPOs are able to access full information in an interoperable manner, I think there was a need to, develop an in-house application. So that is how Farmer Chat as an application came into existence. So this is an app which has been developed in-house by Digital Green, which is a farmer-facing app basically. The farmers, once they are onboarded on the application, can, use the application or rather exploit the application to seek any information that they are looking forward to with regards to agriculture or allied sectors like dairy or livestock, etc. Weather updates, pest management, disease management, whether they're looking at, very specific information through a chatbot, they can interact with this application. Through text or voice, or even click a picture, send it across on the app, and you get a response immediately within few seconds. So this very hyper-local, contextualized and real-time advisory is something which the farmers could actually receive while they are using this application. Now, they did not have to really wait for maybe a third person or an agri expert or an extension worker to come to them and then get their queries resolved. At least the first level of queries and challenges were addressed at the same time. Now, how did we really move to FPOs, in this entire process? So while working with farmers, of course, we were working very closely with FPOs to connect with their farmers, their shareholders, and get them onboarded onto Farmer Chat as an application. But while we were very closely associated with the FPOs, we realized that, of course, FPOs as an organization, as a company, as an institution, they have their own set of challenges and concerns. So maybe when we started working with them, we saw the very traditional way of capturing farmer-related information, member profiles, their requirements, what are the demands that the farmers are really looking forward to in terms of purchasing inputs or even in terms of selling their produce. Are they really having access to buyers and suppliers in the market? So these were expectations of the shareholders from the FPOs, while at the same time the FPOs were operating in a more traditional manner. So which was actually slowing down the entire pace of the operations. That is when we introduced an interface on Farmer Chat, which was specially designed for the FPOs and farmer collectives. Now that is called Farmer Chat Partners. This interface actually helps the FPOs to, one, digitalize the entire data of their farmer members. They have complete information on the dashboard with regards to what exactly are the requirements. That actually helps them in better decision making for their operational aspects. Also in better price realization, because now they have an exact match for the demand and the market supply. They in fact negotiate better, which leads to better price realization for them. And at the end of the day, of course, with better negotiations, the FPO is actually also witnessing that there is an increase in terms of their business, ultimately of course benefiting the farmers, because that goes back to the farmers as shareholders. So that is how both the applications are totally aligned, connected, interconnected, and at the same time, the applications are interoperable. So just, I know it's time, I'll just very quickly mention what the interoperable process here means. So for example, the farmers were very, very interested in understanding what are the government schemes, what really applies to them, how do they make an application for that. Of course, Digital Green or any organization in the space would not have everything A to Z available, with them. And that is a space and opportunity for different organizations like us to collaborate, come together and use, the features and the interventions that we hold expertise in. So we worked closely with Haqdarshak here, and we integrated their APIs into FarmerChat and FarmerChat partners. So now when a farmer is looking forward to access those government schemes, they are directly redirected to Haqdarshak's portal and they get complete information there. So that is how we are also collaborating with relevant stakeholders in the ecosystem, and that's how interoperable systems are built into FarmerChat as well.
Great. I think this is what I think more and more, I think, while the digital products are getting created, I think the interoperability, I think, will be like a game changer. I think this is what I think one of the initiatives we are doing, like a public good on water, which we discussed just in the previous sessions. But I think there's a huge opportunity for the sector to, I think, cross-collaborate, bring the, I think, API so that we can create for the larger good. And with that, probably, I think I'll come to Deepak, because one of the other thing, which is the bold initiative which has been taken recently on this FPO ScaleX program, who is Samanati Foundation and Satwa partnering and creating that journey. And Deepak, I think you see that also more from the, like you talked about the, I think, challenges. And when you see such bold initiatives, which is collaborative by nature, like nature, where people are looking at, and some of these philosophies of building the unicorn FPOs, how do you see this initiative can be some of the light, some of the like in ray of hope, or I'll probably say like a model which can bring multiple partners on this journey of the unicorn FPOs? What is your experience? You have seen it, you have now almost like few months there. What is your perspective on that?
See, before coming to making the FPOs unicorn, two aspects which I have seen in the rural areas and across the states, I have seen is now, if you will see the earlier, every household in rural areas has the bullocks, they had the cow. Of course, when there was a bullock, there was a cow or the buffalo. But there is total shift of the practices. No one in villages wants to go for the actual farming. No one wants to go for the actual dairy. And the same problem which we are facing in the urban areas, now the rural areas are also facing, that younger generations are moving towards the urban areas. So we talk about that FPO only taking care of the production part. FPOs are also taking up the activities like community dairy, community kitchen, how to help the elderly who are left in the villages, because no one wants to do the agriculture, and that's how the prices are going up. So when we talk about the unicorn FPO is just not in the terms of the turnover, it also has to be in terms of the profit. So how to reduce the cost in terms of doing the mechanization of farming, doing the community-based farming practices or agri-allied practices, that we have to do on one side. The other side, as I said, that every FPO talk about the finance, and the second aspect is the market linkage. Sir, मैं बना तो कुछ भी लूँगा, मैं प्रोड्यूस तो कुछ भी कर लूँगा, बेचूँगा कहाँ? And rightly talked by Senoy and Mansi, institutional collaborations are needed. Digitization is needed, because today the digital markets are much more bigger than the physical markets. Okay? And Samunati being the ecosystem enablers and having worked for last 10 years, we have worked on the different platform. We came up with the input marketplace, we came up with output marketplace, we even went for the credit marketplace. We wanted a place where we can place the requirements of FPO and any financer can come and finance it. Then came the trade next, where we are telling that like Flipkart and Amazon, you come and display your products, let the buyers and supplier discover the say, business in the output and input marketplace, and then do the transaction in the TradeNext platform. And this SKLX program, if you will see, it is combination of all these activities which Samunati has been doing for last 10 years. Like we have the CEO Academy where we are training, because capacity building, we all are talking about that when we have to grow a 100 crore FPO, then capacity building of CEO and FPO is very important. Training them time to time work, the compliance, their compliance calendar, then the recent movement in the Companies Act, the markets, and everything is very important. And that should be in their local language, that should be available in their mobile apps. And not only that, explaining the practicality of those things are more important. TDS कट जाता है, पता नहीं चलता, साल के अंत में CA बताता है कि आपका TDS पे करना चाहिए था. That's what I have come across. So SKLX is nothing but a program under the flagship program of Lighthouse FPO, where we are talking about minimum 100 Lighthouse FPO having 100 crore ka turnover, so that looking at them, other FPOs get inspired and do the things. And through SKLX, we are trying to cover all the aspect of capacity building, market linkage, and everything. Not just by partnering with Samunati, it is a platform where we are trying to partner it with all stakeholders. Any financiers can come, any FPO is not part of Samunati can also be part of SKLX program. And this is, of course, being carried through Satwa as well as the Samunati Foundation. Because business, we want to keep it aside, and the development part, we would like to keep it aside, so that it doesn't get mixed. No, this is for the growth of the business. So this program is open for all the FPO. This program is open for all the stakeholders, whether it is financing company or input company, output company, whosoever it may be. So it's an open platform helping the FPOs ecosystem to grow to the level where they can grow.
No, I think very well said. I think this is like a public good initiative type. I think this is open for everyone. I think there's a reminder now. I just have to like quickly cover, I think, two questions. I think right now, I think Sweta, I think you also play the role of a funder, and I think we're actually like supporting a lot of these, I think, early FPCs to at least grow to 0 to 1. Some of them obviously have like cross, I think, 1 to 5 and 5 to 10. What type of, I think, funding opportunity can play a catalytic role to accelerate the journey of like say 50 crore, 200 crore type? ऐसा कौन सा फंड या किस तरह के फंड के हम मार्केट में बात कर सकते हैं जहाँ पे आई थिंक ग्रोथ पर्सपेक्टिव में आई थिंक वो हेल्प कर सकता है?
या सो ऑब्वियसली जब FPOs ग्रो करेंगे टू 100 करोड़ तो उनका बेस वैल्यू हैज़ टू बी समवेयर अराउंड 10 प्लस, राइट? सो 10 प्लस के जो FPOs होते हैं, एंड देन व्हाट वी आर लुकिंग एट फॉर अस, वी कंसीडर देम टू बी इन अ स्टेज व्हेन दे आर रनिंग. तो हम अलग अलग स्टेजेस पे रखते हैं FPOs को, when they crawl and then they walk and they run and then they have to finally fly, and fly is where they will reach to a self-sustainable place. तो जो वहाँ पे FPOs होते हैं, and then we try and support them, and then they are very answerable to the money that they are getting. So this is like a funding to them, and they have to give the returns on it. तो ये is what we have to ensure, and that's how we are looking at the entire program, and we want to make it a holistic one.
Thank you so much. I think that business thinking both sides is more important to grow. Lastly, संजीव जी, आपका ये लास्ट क्वेश्चन है. वहाँ पे अभी अपने 26 के आंकड़ा कर चुके हैं, 40 की तरफ जा रहे हैं. आई थिंक बिग राउंड ऑफ एप्लॉज फॉर आई थिंक सच एंटरप्रेन्योर्स जो इंस्पायरिंग है कि हम ये छोटा गेम के लिए नहीं आए हैं, हम आगे 100 करोड़ के लिए आई थिंक ऑलरेडी मेंटली आई थिंक बना चुके हैं. तो अभी जब ये जर्नी कर चुके हैं, आपने ये पहले बताया कि क्या क्या स्टेप्स आपने कर चुके हैं. अभी तक 26 और 40 की जर्नी, आपको लगता है कि अगर मुझे 100 करोड़ की अगर करना है, मेरे मॉडल में, गवर्नेंस में हो, लीडरशिप में हो, फाइनेंसिंग में हो, क्या ऐसे चीज़ें मुझे, आपको लग रहा है कि नहीं ये चीज़ें मुझे अभी चेंज करना है, या ये चेंज ज़रूरी है मुझे 100 करोड़ की ग्रोथ के लिए, आगे के लिए?
सर, इसमें सबसे बड़ा बैरियर जो रहता है ना ग्रोथ करने में, वो रहता है फाइनेंस मैनेजमेंट का. और समनुथी के साथ जो हमें फाइनेंस मैनेजमेंट के मतलब फंडे समझने को मिले हैं, या कैसे हम चैनल पार्टनर बनाए, वो सीखने को मिला. BTST मॉडल हमने यहाँ से सीखा. मतलब हम एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट से दूसरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जाने के लिए सोचते थे, आज हम अंडमान निकोबार तक के ऑर्डर लेके बात करते हैं कि हम वहाँ माल देंगे। तो ये चीज़ें देखने को रहेंगी। तो 100 करोड़ सर आने वाले साल में मेरे हिसाब से कुछ भी अमाउंट नहीं रहेगा।
Thank you so much. I think we have almost like covered, I think, most of the point, and I know there is a reminder already happening. All the questions, I think, which you have, I think you have to excuse me in terms of, I think we can actually take up the questions during the tea break also, and we're not far away. I think we can reach out, we are all in the sectors. But because of the constant of the, I think, the timeline which you have as a moderations, I think I'll probably not take any questions, but we will be probably addressing questions, I think, whenever, I think, here or outside of the, I think, the hall. But I think the entire session was all about that there is an opportunity. There are models, there are mystery FPOs, there are many more which can clearly say that 100 is just a number. With the right business planning, with the right governance, with the right digitizations, all these things can actually accelerate the path. And I request everyone, whoever I think were working in this domain, please think bold now. We have enough done 0 to 1, and that game also is now established. Government will play a major role. Our role as an innovator and influencing role in the ecosystems has to re-innovate to the, I think, probably FPO 5.0, not about 2.0 also. Like saying that what is something individually and ecosystem level will do, so the next time when we'll meet together, probably meet with the unicorn FPOs and then talk about the success journey to replicate, which down the line maybe government can replicate for many more in the state level at a national level. So thank you so much. Thanks to all the panelists, I think, who took out time. I think had a busy, I was also like not there, like try to discuss, I think, during the weekend, and few we catch up like today. And thanks everyone. Hopefully, I think we'll learn a lot from each other there. Thank you.
I thank our moderator and panelists for their contribution to this enlightening session discussing core enablers for agri-businesses reaching up to 100 crores annual turnover while highlighting practical pathways to integrate climate resilience and gender inclusion. Thank you so much. As a token of gift, I would request our event team to share a speaker's kit to our speakers. After that, we will have a group picture together. There's also a QR code. I would request everyone to please share your feedback about the session. Fireside Chat 3 Advancing Local Systems Strengthening Economic Inclusion program is happening in Inspire Hall. I request those who are interested in this Fireside Chat may head to the Inspire Hall. Thanks.